Peace and power to the people. You're tuned into the Protect Your People podcast presented by the Delco Youth Hub. I'm your host, Day One.
I'm your co-host, Insight.
And we have a great show for you today. I hope you're staying cool because we are hot here in the studio, but that ain't going to stop us. That's never going to stop us. All right, let's jump in, shall we?
Yes.
All right.
Let's check in. Since June is Black Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, what have you been doing to take care of your mental health?
That is a great question, and I hope that we check in on this level like after June, because this is something we should be talking about every day, as much as we possibly can. For me personally, something I did today, I went to Wissahickon Valley Park, sat by the water, and really just allowed myself to just be immersed in nature and do nothing for a little bit. For me, being in nature, being grounded, sitting by the water, it helps me refocus, it helps me recenter, and it helps me disconnect from, all the stresses of society. And it's good to have that time in nature to recharge. I know you're not a black man, but I think we should check in on everybody. What have you been doing to care for your mental health?
Yeah, I kind of think that is really similar. I think it's just allowing myself to be and not think about anything at times. I think sometimes we think about too much, or we're trying to go back and check our Google calendars and see what meeting or, what task we have to complete. And I think sometimes we should allow ourselves to clear our mind and just be present to the present moment and to ourselves.
Most definitely. I want to hear from the viewers. What have y'all been doing to care for your mental health? And do you have any suggestions for somebody out there who might need some help, in that department? What have you been doing? What has been working for you when it comes to caring for your mental health? All right, so let's jump into today's agenda.
Before we get started with every podcast, we like to start off with a community agreement. And today's community agreement is transformation. So we embrace the potential for personal and collective transformation. We commit to learning, growing, and evolving both individually and as a community to create a positive and lasting change. So what does transformation mean to you?
That's a loaded question. What does transformation mean? There's so many ways I could answer that. I feel like just the simple thing that's coming to mind, the first thing that comes to mind when I hear the word transformation is growth. Growing is transforming. Evolving is transforming. And so, I think sometimes the word transformation can seem, so heavy. It could seem, so like life altering, but there's transformations taking place every single day. And to me, transformation just is all about growing, evolving, learning, becoming, right? What does transformation mean to you?
I think you summarized it up great. I think growing and evolving is always ideal when it comes to transformation. I think we are always evolving as a people, as a community. Nothing ever stays the same. Everything is always constantly changing. So that is my personal definition of transformation.
So as a youth leader, right, how do you work to transform your community? What is that transformation you're looking to bring in your community?
Yeah, that's a great question. First and foremost, I think transformation starts within. I think in order to, try to change, the community, it starts with you first. What are you changing in your everyday life? How are you seeking to be a better leader? And how do you plan to help community most effectively?
I love that. I love that answer. For me, I think, yes. Right? And where does that start? Because transformation starts within. There's a lot going on in here. So where do I start? And so for me, I feel like it's always about the narratives. It always boils down to not only how we talk about each other, but how are we talking to ourselves? When you're thinking, what are you thinking about? What are the narratives that are, playing out in your mind before you even speak them into existence? What are those attitudes and beliefs that are just, coming up automatically from your subconscious that you have to, get in check? And so for me, I'm definitely doing a lot of work transforming the narratives that impact, my community. And those are, again, narratives that we tell about each other, narratives that we tell about ourselves, narratives that the media is promoting. I think transforming that, the way we think and speak, and the things that we believe that are just not true and harmful. I think if we transform that, everything else can fall in place. And with the work we're doing with Day One Not Day Two, that is kind of like the core of everything, because you could change policies, you could change material conditions, but until we change the hearts, until we change the minds, we're going to keep repeating these cycles of trauma and oppression and marginalization. And so it's important. We have to believe first. We have to start with the beliefs.
So we've been talking a lot about transformation, and we've been doing a lot of participatory defense work as well. How have you seen the participatory defense model transform outcomes in a courtroom?
That's a great question. More than anything, I feel like participatory defense really helps people to feel like they've been involved in a process. And I think that's the biggest challenge with the criminal legal system, right? A lot of people don't feel like they can do anything. A lot of people feel like they're just, sitting and watching other people make decisions for them. They feel like they can't do anything to make a change or impact the process. And I think participatory defense changes that paradigm. It changes that perspective. It really allows people to acknowledge and appreciate the impact that a community can have. We can change so much, and we can impact so much. We can influence so much when it comes to the court proceeding and the court process. We take it for granted, and a lot of the times it's solely because we don't know. No one's taught us, no one's educated us. And once you have that knowledge, knowledge is power, right? And so we have more power with that. We have more power as a unit. We have more power as a community when we're, fighting these cases and we find ourselves navigating these criminal legal systems, right? And so that's one way. Another way is that it really has an impact on the judge and also the DA, if it's a trial, the jury. The reason being is these are all human beings. These are all people. We're all humans at the end of the day. That means we're biased. We make decisions that are, based off of, our own experience, our own human emotions, the way that we perceive the world. And when you see a crowded, packed courtroom, you can't help but think, wow, this person has a lot of support. You can't tell me that that's not going to cross your mind one time. And if you're saying that to yourself, wow, this person has a lot of support, that's at least a moment where you're not looking at this person as a criminal. Just for that split second when you're thinking, wow, look at all the support this person has. I wonder how to get all the support, right? It gets you thinking outside of the charges that are on the DA and the judge's desk. It gets you thinking about that person's humanity and not, potentially the worst thing they've ever done. And so, participatory defense has impacted several cases that I've been involved with, and we've known directly. We've known that it's because of the direct influence of the work that we've been doing as a hub that people's sentences have been reduced. People are not in jail right now. They're out and free in the world. People have less fines, court costs, restitutions. Yesterday we were on a participatory defense meeting where they were talking about strategies on how to waive fines, court costs, and restitution altogether, right? And so the impact just goes on. I could talk for so long about all the different ways, but in short, it impacts. You can use participatory defense to impact every single stage of the court process, and I wish more people knew that. I wish that more of the community understood that, because once we do, oh man, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. Once we understand that as a unit, as a community, we can't be stopped.
So on to our movement updates.
Yes. This past week, we've hosted our first Pain and Picnic, the Free the Future Pain and Picnic, presented by Decarcerate Delco. We painted, we picnicked, and we had a great time. The next Pain and Picnic is going to be in Upper Darby next month. If you're interested in the area, know some young people who might be interested, check out our Instagram for more information, Delco Youth Hub on IG, or you can check out Day One Not Day Two for more information as well. One thing I will say, a highlight, it's so many talented artists in this movement. It was amazing because I'm trash when it comes to painting. Unless we're talking about finger painting. I'm bull of finger paint. Kindergarten, I had the best handprint turkey. I don't know if y'all remember that. That was back when they told us that Columbus founded America. I had the best handprint turkey.
Like, put your hand down.
Yeah, because it's like it's all in the thumb. It's all in like how you position the thumb on there. Because you don't. Anyway. On to our next movement update. The activation tour was recently in Baltimore, and it was an amazing event. We had some amazing partners come out. There was a huge youth cipher at the end of that. Who run it? We run it. Who everything in abundance? It was lit. If you didn't see footage from that, you can check out my Instagram at Day 1 Not Day 2 to see more. Our next stop is going to be in Oakland. So if you're in the West Coast area, you want to come see me, you want to come see other amazing young performers, and you want to activate change all at the same time, come on. You got to come to the activation tour. Finally, there is another Spark session this week, Wednesday. What day is it? It's Saturday?
It's Saturday.
Yeah. There's another Spark session this week, or next week. There's another Spark session next week. It is June 26th, Wednesday, at the Sculpture Garden. And this is an opportunity for young people, folks who've worked with young people, community members to come together, and we're going to talk about how we can transform the narratives that are being put out there about our youth in the Philadelphia area. And so I'm sure you've noticed, you turn on the news, read the paper, they're vilifying and criminalizing our young people left and right. And it's time that we as a community, we stood up for our most vulnerable populations, which are our youth. We have to stand up and fight for the future. And so we're coming together to build relationships with each other, and then hopefully build relationships with these journalists, these, folks who work for these media outlets, editors, publishers, etc., on how we can be better. How can we tell these stories better? How can we actually get to know the community that we're reporting on? This is the second installment of this event. The first installment was amazing, and I'm definitely looking forward to what's to come, because we need change and we need it now. Mm-hmm. So if you're available, again, June 26th, we're going to be in North Philly for the Spark session. You can go to Day 1 Not Day 2 on Instagram. That's all spelled out for more information.
So today we have a special guest here to talk about the bill process. I'll pass it to Cheyenne to introduce herself.
My name is Cheyenne. I am a youth organizer with the Delco Youth Hub. Today I'm just going to be answering some questions regarding the bail system.
All right, so let's start off. What is bail?
Bail is an amount of money set by a judge in order for the defendant to come home. So basically, bail can be from $50 to $1 million and so forth. So yeah, it's a deposit that someone has to make in order for the accused to come home, to fight the charges or cases on the street rather than struggling in jail and being away from their job or their kids, just being taken out of the community.
Yeah, everything you said is 100% correct. Bail is just the process of a person paying money for their freedom. It really breaks down to that, and unfortunately, it's a process that is extremely harmful in our system, because if you think about it, a lot of people end up in jail because they simply can't pay. And so people are literally being punished for being poor.
From your experience, what can you expect at a bail hearing?
In a nutshell, it's just basically the DA, which is the district attorney, which is the opposite side, and your lawyer. They're going to be arguing back and forth. Well, not back and forth, but talking about the charges, the next step in the case, where they should go from here, to where your lawyer is going to be basically painting a picture of you, trying to show the judge that you don't deserve to be locked in a cage like an animal, or innocent until proven guilty. And then after that, the judge makes an assumption off of what he hears or she hears, and then gives a bail. Or they could give no bail, because you don't have to give bail.
Yeah, so at a bail hearing, a judge is making a determination of whether or not to grant you bail, and also how much that bail is going to be. And the first whether or not to grant you bail is based on your charges. Usually, if you don't have a whole bunch of open cases, if you haven't already violated a bail agreement, and if you don't have a murder charge, first degree murder charge, usually they'll set some type of bail. Now there is this practice of setting bail so high that a person can't pay it, and that violates a whole nother right, because technically you're supposed to set bail at an amount that the defendant can afford, and they're supposed to take into account your work history, education history, your background, but a lot of times it doesn't really work out like that. And the next thing that they're looking for is, are you a flight risk? They're looking to see, are you a flight risk? They're looking to see what is the threat on the community? Are you a threat to the community? And those are the two major things. And so when you're communicating with your lawyer, you want to make sure that you're giving them evidence, you're giving them as much as they can to explain the fact that you're not a flight risk, that you're not a threat to society, and the more reasons that you have, the better. So, Cheyenne, from your experience, what are the different types of bails and how do they work?
It's different bails. Like, it's ROR, which you can just sign your name on a contract stating that you're not going to get any more trouble. They're going to trust your word. They have unsecured bail and secure bail, which is unsecured is they'll give you a bail, like let's say it's $25,000, but it's unsecured, so you don't have to pay it. You'll just sign a little contract like with ROR, but if you catch another case, then you'll be responsible for paying that bail. But that's how a bail is initially set through a judge and how they feel it that day, but we ain't even going to speak about that.
What can a person do to impact the outcome of a bail hearing?
I would say talk to your lawyer and just tell them all the positive things that you're doing in your life, whether it's volunteering in the community or just being active in the community, job. Yeah, just positive things. Like, show them that you're not a flight risk, that you'll comply with any rules that apply with the bail, or just all good things. And then your lawyer tells the judge that, and y'all go from there.
Yeah, talking to your lawyer is definitely important. You want to make sure you're maintaining those lines of communication. You want to make sure they have as much ammunition as they can in that bail hearing as to why you're not a threat, why you're not a flight risk, and why it's important for you to be out. So if you have children, make sure you bring up the fact that you have children, you're an active parent. If you're going to school, make sure you're bringing that up. If you have a job, if you're taking care of your grandmom, if your community is depending on you for whatever reason, like, bring up as much as you possibly can to your lawyer to give them ammunition in that bail hearing. And also, if possible, as soon as you get a bail hearing, if there's anybody that could come and show up for you, it makes a hell of a difference. I've seen time and time again, people going to bail hearings, and they're usually empty. They're usually empty rooms because they happen at all, times throughout the day. But if you have somebody in there, 1, 2, don't let you have like a whole, room full of people. It makes a difference. It makes such a difference, especially early on at that stage. So if you can call somebody, find out when it is, let them know, and tell somebody to be there. They're going to be pissed at you that, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're showing up at your bail hearing. But when I say it definitely has an impact on the outcome, it definitely impacts the outcome. And finally, I know we're talking about what can you do to impact it in a good way. Something that you shouldn't do is talk about your case. The bail hearing isn't talking about what happened. I went to one bail hearing, and it was honestly hard to watch because I think the person honestly didn't understand what a bail hearing was, and he kept telling the judge that, hey, I didn't do this, I wasn't even there, I wasn't XYZ, I didn't have nothing to do with this, that, and the third. And even if that was true, it's not going to help you at this stage. This stage of the process is really just for that bail hearing. Now, if for whatever reason it's literally physically impossible, and the chances of this case being thrown out are very likely, that might be something for your lawyer to bring up. Your Honor, they have this information and the facts actually show this. Again, they're not supposed to make a determination on the facts, but there are situations and circumstances where it might make sense to hint at the fact that we all know this is getting thrown out. So, but more often than not, you shouldn't talk about the case at all at the bail hearing. And as always, I just want to say that we don't give any legal advice. We're not lawyers. We don't give advice. We're just community members who are, trying to help other community members through the experiences that we've had. And so again, thank you, Cheyenne, so much for joining us. I'll see you next week at the Hub.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this podcast today, and we'll do so much better next time.
As always, protect your people.